Hopefully people are coming online and seeing me. I'll give it a minute or so. Can you see it? Okay. If you're joining us today, we're just getting started. Welcome. And we'll start in a couple minutes. So if you're watching this on the replay, skip ahead a couple minutes. We'll start in a couple minutes. And if you're looking for Q, you're not on the wrong page. I'm taking over today. We'll give it a couple more minutes. Okay. All right. So we're just waiting a couple minutes for Twitch to come on and a couple other channels that we're broadcasting on today. So be patient with us and we'll get started in a minute. Okay. All right. Looks like we are up on all channels and I'm going to start. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Deb Perry. I am sitting in today for Q Fum Gray, and this is Q Talk Live. Today I'm simulcasting on 4 channels. Q Talk on Facebook, Q's personal Facebook page, Q Fum Gray on YouTube and Twitch. I also have Andy in my ear like Q usually does, and he will be fielding all the questions and comments. So keep in mind there is a little bit of a delay, but I'll be answering your questions. So thank you again for joining me today. I am going to be demoing a kind of a fabrication and PMC. I'm normally a PMC artist. I also do some traditional silversmithing. And, lost an earpiece there. And I'm going to talk a little bit about PMC and how it works. And what I'm going to be doing today is showing you how to make a PMC piece and solder it onto a PMC shank and make a ring today. So let me talk a little bit about myself, who I am. I got my start teaching precious metal clay with Q when she owned her shop in Chagrin. I am a Rio certified in PMC. I am also one of the founders of our PMC Guild here in Ohio. I'm currently teach locally in the greater Cleveland area, and obviously I'm from Ohio. And I'm also teaching for Q in her virtual Ever Crafting that is going to run from March 30th to April 3rd. So if you haven't had a chance to check out the site, go check out the site. Make sure you check out my classes. I'll talk a little bit about, and if you can see on the screen, some of the projects I'm doing, I'll talk a little bit about that too today. But go check out, there's a ton of great artists teaching this time around. So a little bit about the classes I'm teaching, and then I'll get started and show you the demo. I am teaching how to make a hollow form or a rock class, which is out of PMC. I'm teaching all PMC. I'm teaching the rock class. I'm also going to show you guys how to make your own paper or PMC sheet, kind of my version of it, and what I've kind of, came up with. I'm doing a 1 hour. She has also shorts in VEC that will show you just a quick glimpse of what everyone's doing. And if you don't want to take a full class, it's a great way to, dip your toes into it and see something. But I will be showing you how to do the earrings, are how to make paper and work with it. I also have a ring, and we'll be doing embellishments with the paper. And I also have a 1-hour class on, and it's hard to see on camera, but it's called Beyond, I believe Beyond Shine, without using PMC. It's PMC without using a tumbler. So how to hand polish and do some little tricks and tips to polishing. That being said, I also have talk a little bit about the PMC today that we're going to use. We're going to use PMC 3. I like PMC 3 or the PMC Flux just because I can torch fire, and I like to torch fire a lot. I don't always like to use a kiln. Those of you that are new to precious metal clay, what it is, it's a clay form. It is fine silver particles that are actually crushed. Mitsubishi, I use the Mitsubishi product. There are other products out there, Art Clay Silver and some others. But it's finely crushed silver with a binder and water that they've come up with a formula and they have created. They have different formulas. They have the PMC sheet. They have PMC silver, which I believe has a little bit more copper alloyed in it and stuff like regular sterling silver. And they also have a syringe so that you can do it in syringe. That being said, it's a little bit about the PMC and how that's going to work. Andy, are there any questions? Okay. All right, then let's get started. I'm just going to kind of move out tray after tray here. So, all right. So what you want to do with PMC, for those of you who haven't used PMC before, you want to oil your hands, either with olive oil, or I'm using a product today, I guess it goes this way so you can read it. It's called Silk. It's like a hand cream. I'm going to get my hands really oily so the clay doesn't stick to your hands. When you're not using your clay, they suggest that you keep your clay in some type of case so that it is, or not case, I keep it in a little hydrator actually. Looks like this. Little jar with a sponge in it and some water. Or keep it under some type of saran so it doesn't dry out. So I'm going to take a little piece of clay. Set that there. And normally when you're rolling out your clay, you want to pick out a texture. Any kind of rubber stamp. You can make your own stamps. You can buy commercial stamps, however you want to do it. Then you just kind of want to work your clay. Get out any air bubbles or any, make sure that you don't have any lumps or bumps in it. And the oil will help the clay not stick to your fingers, because you don't want it sticking to your fingers. Silver is kind of expensive. What I'm going to do is we use playing cards or some type of measuring system so that it is a depth for your clay. Today I'm going to use 4 cards, and what it is 4 cards actually taped together. So that's where you'll hear people say 4 cards thick or 3 cards thick. That's where they get that thickness. So I'm going to roll it out, and I always start from the center and go forward. If it sticks, you can pick it up and roll it down. I'm just going to roll that out. I may need a little bit more for the texture I want to use today. The nice thing about the clay is you can roll it out, and if you don't like it, you can pinch it up back together and re-roll it. Hello, Sue. That is my aunt. I don't know why I keep losing my pieces here, but I'll get that in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to just roll that out. And what I started with was the 4 cards, and I'm going to roll down to 3 cards. And depending on the texture you're using and what you're doing, so I'm going to use this. Before you start or actually use your rubber stamp, you definitely want to put some type of oil, or today I'm using a lubricant from Cool Tools. It's called Cool Slip, so your clay does not stick into your texture. I'm going to lay my clay on top. Actually, I'm going to go this way. And because I want it to be 3 cards thick, I'm going to lay both cards next to it so that when I roll and press down, I get that actual depth. And it'll be 3 cards. So I went from 4 cards to 3 cards. Now, depending on how heavy you press and you do your texture, will depend on how the depth of it. And some people, hopefully you guys can see that okay. A lot of times it takes a little getting used to. If you are a heavy roller, you don't want to roll super hard over that, because you want to keep the depth of the clay. And if you look on the side here, that is like 3 cards thick. And if you have a tendency to be a heavy roller on your ends, you could roll, like say this part, really thin, and that's going to be hard to, you're going to lose that depth and that texture. Then what you want to do is you can do a couple different things. I could take, just reach in here, I have a template that I could use, and if I wanted to, wanted it to be a circle, I could cut it like into a circle with a needle. I have a needle tool here that I'm going to cut that out with. Or I'm going to kind of freeform this today, so you can use templates, but I wanted to show you either way you can cut it out. But today I'm just going to freeform it. So I'm just kind of making, because this is kind of like a flower, I'm just kind of circling around it. Great. And you may find that your clay, if your clay's super soft, like mine's really soft today, it's a little sticky, but that's okay because it's going to dry, and I'm going to sand it in the end anyhow. So now I'm going to dry it, but before I dry it, there's a whole bunch of little, like you can buy templates or like little molding pieces. I actually use, this is for a 2-part, the leftover thing for a 2-part silicone to make your own little templates. I'm just going to place it on top of that. And since this is plastic and it's really kind of oily anyhow, I'm not going to oil it. If you had something that you were going to mold it around that wasn't like greasy or lubricant, like this has like grease from my hands, it's fine. But I'm going to do this upside down, and I'm just going to kind of fold it around. I'm just going to press it. And just kind of shape it into a cup form. Now what I'm going to do off to the side here, I have a little hot plate, or actually a cup warmer, that you can use a dehydrator, a cup warmer, works really well to dry out the clay to get it to like a leather hard state. For those of you joining us today, I'm Deb Perry, and I'm sitting in for Q Femme Gray. So welcome. Then I just for time and that I didn't want to take up too much time like waiting for that piece to dry, so I have pieces in stages for us today. But you can see how, hopefully you can see that on camera, it's kind of like you can't bend it. It's pretty much leather hard, but at this stage it's very fragile. But now I'm going to sand it. So I'm going to take my piece, and I'm just going to take, I find that nail files and stuff that you'd normally use for your nails work out great. So I'm just going to file away. And if you do have any questions, just put it in the chat. Andy's in my ear here, reading them to me. Now, this is the part where if you're too rough with it or too, you know, this is the fragile stage. I'm used to doing this. I've been doing PMC probably, gosh, over probably close to 20 years now. So, and then you just kind of file your edges, smooth them out. And then this leftover powder or dust, you want to save that. I always have a little jar, like a little cup here, that says slip on it. What you can do is take those filings, put them in your jar, just kind of bang them down there, just kind of add a little water. And what you use the slip for is to bind two pieces together. It's almost like glue. So I can do that, add a little bit of water to it, and I'm good to go. So at this point, my piece is pretty well sanded, ready to go. I may refine some of the edges. And this is just something I sometimes do, is I will take a paintbrush, and instead of doing all the sanding, I will just run a bead of water around it to smooth out those edges. The other trick that I've recently learned is little lens wipes or little baby wipes will also is a great way to sand. The alcohol in it will not it doesn't make the clay like beat up. It just does it like dries it really well, but it'll just smooth out that edge. So I sometimes will do that too. Then if I want to add a couple little embellishments to it, at this point when it's dry, this is where you can do it before. I sometimes, depending on what I'm doing, I'll wait, look at the piece, and then decide what I want to do as far as I'm going to drill some holes in it. I could have put pilot holes in with my X-Acto knife or my needle tool prior, but I thought, I'll just wait until it's dry and then decide where I want to do it. So I'm just going to drill. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm just going back and forth. I have a little teeny drill bit. Just going back and forth, popping that through, and just adding a couple of holes to it. Let me add some others. And if I wanted, I have this preset already. I'm going to sand off the edge. I can also sand above. I have a stone already set in a bezel. I'm going to sand the edge around that bezel. You want to make sure at this stage you get everything really nice and clean. That way then it's less work later. I think that's the one reason I really like working with this material and with PMC, is that I don't have to spend a ton of time doing all that refinement of sanding and filing with big files like you do with metal or with traditional metals. Also, this is a quick, easy, PMC is nice that you can work it at your kitchen table, and it doesn't take a lot. a lot of tools. As you can see, I'm using a nail file, you know, you can use an X-Acto knife. I'm using a piece of PVC tubing, get at the hardware store. You know, you can use any type of surface. So now I have this little stone. I'm going to set, move that up a little. Hopefully you guys can see that. Give it a minute to focus. And I'm just going to put that right there in the middle. So to attach this, I'm going to make some slip. So a lot of times I usually use distilled water with my PMC. Today I got a little tap water here. I just pour a little bit of water in there. And I'm taking, sorry about that. I'm taking just like a paint palette brush, and I'm just kind of mixing it around. A little too much water. Yeah. Okay, so I really like the PMC Flex for rings, or for things that you need it to be a little bit, it's got a little bit of almost like an elastic to it. So, and I'll show you in a second. Let me just mix that up. Get some paste in there. You can buy commercial paste too, by the way, but I usually just make my own. Okay, see how this is really hard? And if I would go, this, actually, I probably grabbed the wrong thing, and I did. Oh, this is actually better. By accident, I am using the PMC Flux clay. See how this can bend, and it's a little bit more bendable. Okay, is that better? Sorry, I was moving a little too quick. I forgot about the camera. Okay, so see how this can move back and forth and bend a little, and it's not as breakable. It's nice if you're doing rings and you have to do it around a ring mandrel. The drying time is longer on that than the PMC3. You can also mix the two clays. If you were going to fire or whatever, you can mix some of that together. And you can mix some of it with sterling. I'm trying to see if I have a piece handy, and I don't think I do. I don't think I have a piece handy. I was going to show you the other. I can probably dry a piece. Let me roll out, because I know I have some in here if it's not too wet. Otherwise, I'll open it. I thought I grabbed the PMC3 and I grabbed the other. I'll roll out a piece of, this is PMC, the PMC3 I got in here. Let me just roll this out, because then you guys can really see the difference. I'll just roll it out and dry it, and I'll break it and show you how. I'm just rolling a thin piece. I'm not even going to texture it or do anything. I'm just going to throw it on the hot plate. Okay. All right. So let me show you how to actually get this attached. So then with a small paintbrush, I take a little butter, a little bit of my slip. I'm going to rehydrate. I'm going to just set that in the center. Going to put a little bit of slip on there, and off to the side here I have this little sponge with a little bit of water in here. So I'm just getting the clay wet and rehydrating it a little so it'll stick. Then on the back of my stone, I'm just dampening that too. I got a little of this paste on there. lay that down. So it's kind of a goopy texture. Depending on like the pieces you're putting together, you can add thicker slip. But for this, I don't think it needs to be thicker. I'm just going to press down and hold that with my finger for a couple seconds, just so it makes a good contact. Then what I'm going to do is take a little bit of slip and just run a bead along the edge. And let that dry. Then I'll put it on the drying rack and let that dry. Any questions? That's great. That's kind of, you know, the gist of the PMC portion of it. Now, granted, when you're firing with stones in it, you have to make sure that your stone, I usually use the Fire Bowl stones that I have tested out. I know that I can torch fire them or kiln fire them. I know that, you know, I'm not going to have any problem with them either turning colors, blowing up in my, you know, kiln, or if I'm torch firing. So I always recommend that you definitely, wherever you get your stones from, that you test them first. So either put them, a lot of times I'll put them in a piece of PMC. I'll either torch fire it, kiln fire it, and if you are torch firing or kiln firing, you need to make sure that you do not take them out or quench them when they come out right after you torch. Otherwise, you're going to break your stone. So you want to make sure that you definitely do not do that. Okay, so just for time's sake, because I know I only have an hour, and I kind of prepped things ahead of time so that we could keep moving along here, is I pre-made a piece similar to what we just did, and I am going to show you how to torch fire that. But I want to talk a little bit about, now obviously I use an extra bedroom in my home for my studio, my art stuff. I also do watercolors, so this is kind of catch-all for everything. I don't always torch fire in here, so you have to think about safety. So a couple things I just wanted to mention is I found these, I believe they're at Costco. I got these at Costco. I'm sure you can get them at, you know, Home Depot, Lowe's, any of those places. This is great if you don't have a fire extinguisher in your, you know, in your studio or where you work. I highly suggest that in case you have a problem. You got it right here and it's handy. My other tip, I'm all full of tips here, is this is by far heaven sent. If you burn yourself, burn gel is always nice to have in your studio. Put it on quick. It'll take away that burn and that pain. So, okay. The other little tip or trick that I have recently found, and I actually have to give Q a little credit for this, because we were at her house for dinner and she had one of these like metal, I think it's for cooking. It's like a metal, metal piece. And you put it on your stove. It's like a grease thing. I got it on Amazon. Splash guard, thank you. But what I'm going to use it for today, and what I use it for torch firing, is if you don't have an actual dedicated torch firing center, what I do is I set up the 3 pieces. I do everything on a cookie sheet. So I've got everything set up and kind of organized on that. And I use the splash guard so that, let me just see if I can, take me a second to go from one to the other. Sorry about that. It's nice to just have it there, because then your flame's not going all over the place. Give me a second to get organized. And like I said, I'm hoping you guys can see that okay. Okay. All right. So, I'll show you the two pieces and I kind of talk through like what I did. So I've got the base. I actually have a ring shank made out of traditional silver, sheet or wire, however, whatever you want to use for your ring shank. I have, it's a little glary today. I'll let that focus in a little. Let's see if it'll come in a little bit better and not be so glary. I have a little piece of PMC that I torch fired beforehand just to save time. And went through, I did all my refining on this piece and cleaning up prior. So all I had to do was torch fire it. After I torch fired the piece, I took a brass brush, brushed it with some Dawn dish soap, got it nice and clean. When you're, and this is really important, when you are going to solder a piece of traditional sterling silver, this is fine silver. PMC is fine silver. So when I'm going to actually attach another piece to it, I want to make sure my silver is really, really clean so that I get a good attachment there. So brass brush it really, really clean, get it all cleaned up. Then what I did was, on my ring shank, I ended up, because obviously it was just a half round ring shank, I went ahead and I ended up filing my edges. Just took a file. Now, obviously I didn't do it here. I did it with my little bench pin and how you normally do. I filed my edges really well with a big file. Then I came back in and I have these sanding sticks. I went in and these are just different sizes, different ones. This is like a 1000 grit. Went in, cleaned it up so it would fit on the ring shank. Then what I found that just for me, you know, there's multiple ways to do this, but I kind of was playing around with the ring shank to see, okay, is it going to fit? Is it not going to fit? Is it going to fit this way? And when I found how it actually sat on there, I was like, oh, this actually, and I'll take it and show you this way. I'm like, oh, this actually, just so that you can see, this actually sits and is on there. So what I did was I mark it just so that I know when I'm doing my setup. Took a Sharpie, I marked, and I put an arrow on the inside of the ring shank and on the piece. So I know that both of them going forward, those arrows, that's the way I want to set that ring shank. That way then I know. I also marked, if you can see on here, and I can mark it a little bit darker because it looks like it's, I marked here, and they don't have to be perfect because, I mean, it's going to burn off anyhow. But I marked it so that I kind of have a rough idea like where I want that to sit. Now I'm using the honeycomb block, and if you need any of these tools, you can always reach out to Q and Andy at urbanbeater.com. So I am going to place that there. Just move this out a little. I also have a third hand in here that's going to hold this in place. And I'm just kind of eyeballing and making sure that it definitely is there, and you know, all the sides are touching, that kind of stuff. Now, I know it's going to be a little bit hard for you guys to see this when I torch it. I also am going to today, just because it's probably easier. I don't always use the paste solder, which comes in a tube. I usually use like sheet or wire, but just today I figured it would be easier. You can, you can use, this has flux in it, so I don't have to flux it and do all that. Normally, if I was doing the other solder, I'd flux my piece, spray it with flux, put it in the pickle, do all that after I fire. But what I'm going to do is, on a little toothpick, I'm going to take a little, I might need a little bit more. I'll reset this up. I'm going to just paste both of my, actually, I think I'm going to paste here. Like I said, there's multiple ways to do stuff. I'm just putting a little bit of paste in there. And I think you guys can see that. Now, I need to reline up my ring. I'm going to put my ring, I'm just attaching my ring. And I'm moving this around a little, making sure it's in place, making sure it looks good. And at this point I can move, I can see my solder's a little off, so I'm gonna make sure that I get that lined up. And when you're doing this at home, make sure that you go all the way around and look at exactly, you know, where your ring is positioned on your base. Make sure that you have everything lined up and ready to go before you actually turn on your torch. This way, you're all set and you're squared away and you're like, okay, I've got everything set and ready to go. The other thing too is I have a little metal quench bowl here. Oh. So that one, let me put some water in there. I'm going to recheck that really quick and then I'll make sure it didn't move. I'm just going to adjust it just a hair. Okay. Safety goggles you can use. I today am just going to use a small torch. I have a couple different torches. Depending on what you're doing and the job you're doing. You can use this. If you have a Smith Little torch, by all means you can do that. Fill your torch. I'm going to just show you really quick. I'm going to be careful because I have the overhead camera and it's kind of low, and I also have my other camera, so hence the metal. But I'm going to pull the trigger. This is a pretty hot torch. I'm going to go in, I'm going to circle and heat up. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to heat up my bottom base along with my ring shank. And I'm going to get in there Now this I'm not twirling around too much just because and it looks like it went. I'll have a little bit of cleanup. Yeah, let's hope the solder gods were in my favor today. I'm always nervous about that. If not. Now, because this piece does not have a stone in it, I can quench it. Dry it off really quick. Show you guys what it looks like. So this is, I'm just going to move this stuff out of the way for a second. Oh, wait. Okay, so I can now, if you look at it, I've got some little bit of fire scale there. I can throw it in some pickle, and that'll take that off, clean it up. I'm going to brass brush it really quick. And normally I would take this into another room with a sink, because I don't have a sink in here. I would take it in with this, you know, and clean it up with some Dawn dish soap and a sink after it's been thrown in pickle. Andy, any questions? Hope you guys are enjoying this. Okay. It's a quiet audience today. I don't know where everyone's at. Today it's nice and sunny in Cleveland, so hopefully we'll get spring soon. It's going to be really nice on St. Patrick's Day. I know, close to 70 this week. It'll be gorgeous. All right. I'm just going to clean that up. We'll shine it up. You want to make sure you get a lot of that cleaned up and brushed off. And you can also take your flex shaft or Dremel or whatever you use to, and there's, you know, different bristles that you can, you know, brass brush bristles, soft bristles, and you can polish it up with some of that kind of stuff too if you don't have the brass brush. But now it's fine silver top with the sterling silver base, and I did not bring in here today, or have, I don't think, oh, I might have it. Hang on one second. Two different, I knew I had it handy. You can use liver of sulfur to patina it and make that. Kind of smells like rotten eggs. There is a liver of sulfur gel you can get if you don't want to buy that I use. Mix it with some warm water and get really pretty colored patinas. Or you can use different products like Black Max, paint it on. It'll turn super quick. Remember, it is a chemical. Wear gloves. Be very careful with it since it is a chemical. Today, just for the purposes, and I know we're getting close on time, so I am going to show you, just because it'll be quick and easy. I want to show you with I'll show you with Black Max, and then I want to finish it up, and we will wrap this project up today. So I use a little paintbrush. Okay, so a viewer just said they thanks for your comment, that said that they feel that they can do this. They don't have a kiln. I will tell you, I did not have a kiln for years, and my first torch was a little creme brulee torch from, I think, TJ Maxx or Home Goods or one of those places, and I just use that. Make sure you just get a solder block, and I do keep my solder block for PMC dedicated to PMC stuff, just because if I'm doing traditional silversmithing, I do not want to cross-contaminate or have flux and different things stick to my PMC piece. So that's kind of why I do that. Okay. Yeah. No, that's a great question. The question was, can I enamel the top of this? Yes. There's some great, I don't do enamel too much. I love it. I have friends that do it that are much better at it. So, but yes, there are a lot of metal clay artists that do enamel. And if you're interested, I can give you, let me know, and I can give you some names of some really, really good local in this area. If you're around here, I can give you some names of people that I know teach the metal clay. Okay. Or the enamel. So what you would do then is, after you fire your piece, then you would go ahead and enamel it. And it comes out really, really pretty. Okay, so now I just did this really quick. I will definitely refine this probably a lot more. And then I will post some pictures. But I have a pro polishing cloth. This one's a little... and I'm just going to go in there and kind of clean it up a little. And if I, just taking off some of that black. You can use, there's a ton of other tools. And in my class that I'm teaching for VEC, I am going to show you how to polish without using your Dremel or without using a tumbler, and different material and different things that you can use to really get that high shine if you want that high shine. The other thing, is I'll just take this and shine it up a little. This is just a pro polishing cloth, kind that you can get them at the jewelry store or wherever. And like I said, I'll go through and probably really shine this up. The other thing you could do, I don't have it, I could turn it on, but let me just, so if you don't have a flex shaft, I have my flex shaft, I could go in here and just polish this. Hopefully it won't be too noisy. I'll turn it on really quick and show you. Got my foot pedal. And just go in here. I've got polish on this. Okay. So that just gives you an idea of, you know, what the ring looks like. It's kind of a fun, I just did it something kind of fun today, just to show you guys what you could do. You could set, like I said, you could set a stone in it. You could do whatever. I'll go in and I'll probably blacken the rest of this band and then highlight some of it. The other thing you can do to shine it up and polish it is if you use any of these nail brushes, you can go in, give it like a little matte finish to it if you wanted, and brush it up. Yeah, you have another question. I would probably attach the ring shank and do all, like, finish the whole piece. Oh, I'm sorry. The question was, would I attach, if I was going to enamel the piece, would I attach the ring shank or would I enamel the piece first and then attach the ring shank? And I would probably enamel the whole piece first and then attach, or I would attach the ring shank and then enamel and have the piece done and then put it in. But I would probably refer that question. I'm sure someone else that does enameling and that may do it differently. But that's just based on the couple enamel and PMC classes I've taken. It's usually done, fired, the piece is ready, and the enamel is that last part, and then you're gonna, finish your enamel. So I will go, because I know we're running out of time, and I appreciate everyone being here today. But this is our piece, our ring. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, you can mix this. I find that PMC comes in really handy for those pieces that you want to do. You need a certain texture, you need a certain thing that you want that's different than that you can't find in, your sheet metal. So it does kind of, it's a nice mix between the two. You can kind of incorporate both. Before I sign off, couple things. Q will be back on Wednesday with another UFO. And on Saturday, she is doing a Zoom class called Petrified. There is still time to register. Just go to urbanbeater.com. And any other questions before I sign off? Great, thank you. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, I will clean this up today, and I will post some pictures and that kind of stuff. If you guys do have any questions, please, 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 like and share these videos. It helps Q and Andy out, so we really appreciate that. And go check out the classes at VEC. There's a lot of great classes. I'm signed up for a couple of the shorts. I'm teaching 4 different ones this time. There's a lot of great PMC instructors. I don't know if anyone's teaching PMC and enamel. But yeah, go ahead. We have another question. Yeah, sure. Hang on. The question was, can I show the clay packages and specify what I used? Yeah. I used these two. These are my go-to. I don't know if you're getting a glare off that. Can you see that a little bit better? These two are my go-to. Actually, this is really my go-to. PMC3 is my go-to. I use that all the time, probably because that's what I learned with. I find that it's just, it's easy to work with. And like I said, when I first started, all I did was torch fire. So, it was because I didn't have a kiln. Now, I have multiple kilns, but I don't always fire them up. If I need something quick and easy, like a pair of earrings, I torch fire. Maybe that's what we should do, as a torch fire demo on PMC. I will tell you that these earrings, small stuff works great like this. It's like 3 cards thick with torch firing. I have torch fired rings. in the last VEC, I did a stacked ring class, and I showed them how to torch fire those, and we torch fired. I know, I believe it's Suli that is teaching for VEC, does all light torch firing too. So, great. Like I said, thank you for joining me today. I had fun. And Q will be back later in the week. So, Andy, thank you for being in my ear and fielding all the questions. And I hope you guys enjoyed it.